Camila's heart raced as she stepped off the train, her eyes scanning the bustling platform for a familiar face. The crisp autumn air nipped at her cheeks, a stark contrast to the warmth she felt inside at the prospect of seeing James again. It had been 3 long months since they'd last been together, their long-distance relationship tested by time and distance. As she weaved through the crowd, her mind wandered to the day they first met. It was a chance encounter at a small cafe in Paris, where Kamila had been studying abroad. James, an American businessman on a work trip, had accidentally spilled his coffee on her favourite white blouse. What could have been a disastrous first impression turned into hours of conversation, laughter, and an undeniable connection. Suddenly, a deep voice called out her name. "Kamila!" She turned to see James, his tall frame easily visible above the crowd. His blue eyes sparkled with joy as he rushed towards her, enveloping her in a tight embrace. The familiar scent of his cologne washed over her, and for a moment the world around them faded away. "I've missed you so much," James whispered, his breath warm against her ear. Kamila pulled back slightly, drinking in the sight of him. He looked tired, no doubt from the long hours he'd been putting in at work, but his smile was as radiant as ever. "I've missed you too," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "It feels like it's been forever." James chuckled, taking her hand in his. "Well, we have 2 whole weeks to make up for lost time. Are you ready for our adventure?" Kamila nodded eagerly. James had planned a surprise trip for them, refusing to divulge any details beyond telling her to pack for both warm and cold weather. The mystery of it all both excited and unnerved her, but she trusted James implicitly. As they made their way to James's car, Kamila couldn't help but feel a twinge of anxiety. Despite their strong connection, the distance between them had been taking its toll. There were moments when she wondered if their love could withstand the challenges they faced. But being here with James, feeling his hand in hers, those doubts seemed to melt away. The drive from the train station was filled with animated conversation as they caught up on each other's lives. James spoke about his recent promotion and the increased responsibilities that came with it, while Kamila shared stories about her graduate studies and her plans for the future. As the city gave way to rolling countryside, Camila's curiosity got the better of her. "James, are you ever going to tell me where we're going?" He glanced at her, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Patience, my love. All will be revealed in due time." The sun was setting when they finally arrived at their destination, a charming bed and breakfast nestled in the heart of wine country. The old Victorian house was painted a cheerful yellow, with a wraparound porch adorned with hanging baskets of colourful flowers. "Oh, James," Kamila breathed, taking in the picturesque scene. "It's beautiful." He squeezed her hand. "I thought you'd like it. This is just the first stop on our journey." After checking in and freshening up, they decided to take a walk through the nearby vineyards. The air was crisp and filled with the earthy scent of grapes and soil. As they strolled hand in hand between the rows of vines, Kamila felt a sense of peace wash over her. "You know," James said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately." Kamila looked up at him, curiosity piqued. "Oh, about what?" He stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both of her hands in his. "About us. About our future." His expression was serious, almost nervous. "Kamila, I love you more than I ever thought possible. These past months apart have been torture, and I don't want to spend another day without you by my side." Camila's heart began to race. Was this going where she thought it was? James continued, his voice growing more confident with each word. "I know we've talked about the challenges of our long-distance relationship, but I'm ready to overcome them. I want to build a life with you, Kamila. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night." Tears welled up in Camila's eyes as James dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Kamila, will you marry me?" Time seemed to stand still as Kamila stared at the beautiful diamond ring nestled in the box. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Their first kiss in Paris, the tearful goodbyes at airports, the late-night video calls that never seemed long enough. But through it all, one thing remained constant: her love for James. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." James's face broke into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. He stood up, pulling her into a passionate kiss that left them both breathless. As they embraced, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and orange. "I love you, Kamila," James murmured against her hair. "I promise to spend the rest of my life making you happy." That night, as they lay tangled in each other's arms, Kamila couldn't stop staring at the ring on her finger. It sparkled in the moonlight that filtered through the curtains, a tangible symbol of their love and commitment. "What are you thinking about?" James asked, his voice husky with sleep. Kamila snuggled closer to him. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am, and how excited I am for our future together." James pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "We have our whole lives ahead of us, my love, and I can't wait to experience every moment with you." As Kamila drifted off to sleep, she felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. The doubts and fears that had plagued her during their time apart seemed insignificant now. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The next morning, they awoke to the smell of freshly baked bread and coffee wafting up from the kitchen below. After a leisurely breakfast on the porch, watching the mist rise from the vineyards, James revealed the next part of their adventure. "Pack your bags, my dear," he said with a grin. "We're heading to the mountains." A few hours later, they found themselves winding up narrow mountain roads, the scenery growing more breathtaking with each turn. Pine trees stretched as far as the eye could see, their branches dusted with the first snow of the season. "It's like a winter wonderland," Kamila marveled, her face pressed against the window. James chuckled. "Just wait until you see where we're staying." Their destination turned out to be a cozy log cabin perched on the edge of a pristine lake. A light dusting of snow covered the ground, and smoke curled invitingly from the chimney. "Oh, James," Kamila gasped as they stepped out of the car. "This is incredible." He wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. "I wanted this trip to be special, a celebration of our love and our future together." The inside of the cabin was just as charming as the exterior. A roaring fire crackled in the stone fireplace, casting a warm glow over the rustic furnishings. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of the lake and the mountains beyond. As they settled in, unpacking their bags and exploring their temporary home, Kamila felt a surge of love for James. He had put so much thought into every detail of this trip, wanting to make it perfect for her. That evening, they sat on the cabin's porch, wrapped in warm blankets and sipping hot cocoa. The stars twinkled brightly overhead, unobscured by city lights. "I can't believe we're engaged," Kamila said, admiring her ring once again. "It still feels like a dream." James pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. "It's very real, my love, and it's just the beginning of our journey together." They spent the next few days exploring the area, hiking through snow-covered trails and taking in the breathtaking mountain vistas. In the evenings, they would return to the cabin, cooking meals together and talking for hours by the fire. On their last night in the mountains, James surprised Kamila with a candlelit dinner on the porch. As they savoured the delicious meal and sipped wine, Kamila couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the love she felt for this man. "James," she said, reaching across the table to take his hand, "I want you to know how much this trip has meant to me, not just because of the beautiful places we've seen, but because of the time we've spent together. I feel like I've fallen in love with you all over again." James's eyes softened with emotion. "That's exactly what I hoped for, Kamila. I wanted us to reconnect, to remember why we fell in love in the first place, and to look forward to our future together." As they gazed into each other's eyes, the world around them seemed to fade away. In that moment, Kamila knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right decision in saying yes to James's proposal. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The next morning, as they packed up the car to leave, Kamila felt a pang of sadness. Their magical getaway was coming to an end, and soon they would have to return to the real world, to their jobs, their responsibilities, and the distance that separated them. James seemed to sense her mood. "Hey," he said softly, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. "This isn't the end, you know. It's just the beginning." Kamila smiled, blinking back tears. "I know. I just wish we didn't have to be apart again." James pulled her into a tight embrace. "We won't be. Not for long anyway. I've been thinking about this a lot, Kamila. I want us to be together, really together. No more long-distance relationship." Kamila pulled back, her eyes wide with surprise. "What are you saying?" He took a deep breath. "I'm saying that I'm ready to make a change. I've talked to my company about transferring to the European office. It's not finalized yet, but they're open to the idea. We could be in the same city, Kamila. We could start our life together." Kamila felt her heart soar with joy and disbelief. "James, are you sure? That's such a big move. Your whole life is in America." He cupped her face in his hands, his blue eyes intense with emotion. "You are my life, Kamila. Everything else is just details. I want to be where you are." Overwhelmed, Kamila threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. "I love you so much," she whispered. As they drove back towards the city, the conversation flowed easily between them. They talked about their hopes and dreams for the future, where they might live, the kind of wedding they wanted, even the possibility of starting a family someday. "You know," Kamila said thoughtfully, "I never really believed in soulmates before I met you. It always seemed like such a fairy tale concept." James glanced at her, a soft smile playing on his lips. "And now?" She reached over to squeeze his hand. "Now, I think that maybe fairy tales can come true after all." The rest of their vacation passed in a blur of happiness and excitement. They spent time with Kamila's family, sharing their engagement news and introducing James to the local culture. They explored the city together, revisiting some of Kamila's favourite spots and discovering new ones. On their last night together before James had to return to America, they sat on the balcony of Kamila's apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below them. "I can't believe how much has changed in just 2 weeks," Kamila mused, leaning her head on James's shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "Good changes, I hope?" She tilted her face up to look at him, her eyes shining with love. "The best changes. I feel like my whole life is opening up in ways I never imagined." James pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. "That's how I feel too, like everything is falling into place." As they sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, Kamila felt a sense of peace and certainty wash over her. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges to face, compromises to make, and obstacles to overcome. But she also knew, with every fibre of her being, that as long as she had James by her side, they could conquer anything. The next morning, as they stood in the airport saying their goodbyes, Kamila felt a mix of emotions. Sadness at the thought of being apart again, but also hope and excitement for what the future held. "I'll call you as soon as I land," James promised, holding her tightly. Kamila nodded, fighting back tears. "I'll be waiting, and I'll start looking into wedding venues," she added with a watery smile. James chuckled, pressing a kiss to her lips. "I can't wait. I love you, Kamila, more than words can express. I love you too, James, always and forever." As she watched him walk through the security checkpoint, Kamila touched the ring on her finger, a tangible reminder of their love and commitment. She knew that the coming months would be challenging as they worked to close the distance between them permanently. But she also knew that every moment of separation would be worth it for the lifetime of happiness that awaited them. Walking out of the airport, Kamila felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. She had a wedding to plan, a future to prepare for, and a love story to continue writing. And with James by her side, she knew that their story would be one for the ages, a tale of love that conquered distance, overcame obstacles, and proved that when two hearts are truly meant to be together, nothing can keep them apart. As she drove home, Kamila's mind raced with thoughts of the future. She imagined the life she and James would build together, the home they would create, the adventures they would share, the family they might start. Each possibility filled her with a sense of joy and anticipation. She thought about the challenges they had already faced and overcome in their relationship. The long nights spent missing each other, the frustration of time zone differences, the occasional misunderstandings that arose from not being able to see each other face to face. But through it all, their love had only grown stronger. Kamila realized that their time apart had taught them valuable lessons about communication, trust, and commitment. They had learned to cherish every moment together, to express their feelings openly and honestly, and to support each other's dreams and ambitions. As she pulled into her apartment complex, Kamila felt a surge of determination. She knew that the coming months would require patience and hard work, but she was ready for the challenge. She would throw herself into wedding planning, coordinating with James via video calls and emails. She would research neighborhoods in the city where James might be transferred, imagining the life they could build there together. Entering her apartment, Kamila was struck by how empty it felt without James. His presence had filled every corner during their time together, and now the silence was almost deafening. But instead of letting herself feel sad, she chose to see it as motivation, a reminder of why they were working so hard to be together permanently. She walked to the bedroom and opened her closet, pulling out a small box she had kept hidden away. Inside were mementos of her relationship with James, ticket stubs from their first date in Paris, dried flowers from bouquets he had sent, handwritten love notes they had exchanged over the years. Kamila sat on the bed, carefully going through each item, reliving the memories they represented. As she did so, she realized that their love story was already so rich, so full of beautiful moments and shared experiences, and yet it felt like they were just at the beginning. The thought filled her with excitement and anticipation for all that was yet to come. Kamila's phone buzzed with a text from James. "Just boarded the plane. Missing you already. Can't wait to start our forever together." She smiled, typing back a quick reply. "Missing you too. Safe travels, my love. Our adventure is just beginning." Setting her phone aside, Kamila walked to the window, gazing out at the city below. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and orange. It reminded her of the sunset on the night James had proposed, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest at the memory. In that moment, standing there with the fading light of day illuminating her face, Kamila made a silent promise to herself and to James. She vowed to nurture their love every day, to face whatever challenges came their way with courage and determination, and to never take for granted the beautiful connection they shared. As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Kamila found herself lost in thought, reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had brought her to this moment. The cool evening breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings and the bittersweet scent of change. James, sensing her contemplative mood, gently squeezed her hand. "What's on your mind, love?" he asked softly, his blue eyes searching hers with concern. Kamila turned to face him, a small smile playing on her lips. "I was just thinking about how much our lives have changed in such a short time. It's almost hard to believe, isn't it?" James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's been quite the journey, but I wouldn't change a thing if it meant not ending up here with you." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of Kamila's phone buzzing. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from her mother, asking how the move was going. The reality of their situation came rushing back. They were in the midst of relocating to James's new office in Europe, a decision that had not been easy, but one they both felt was necessary for their future together. "Mum's checking in," Kamila explained, quickly typing out a response. "I think she's still worried about us moving so far away." James wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "It's understandable. We're asking a lot of everyone, aren't we? Moving across an ocean, planning a wedding. It's a lot of change all at once." Kamila leaned into his embrace, drawing comfort from his steady presence. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" she asked, voicing the doubt that had been nagging at her for days. James was quiet for a moment, considering her question. "I think it's natural to have doubts when you're making big life changes," he said finally. "But every time I look at you, I know in my heart that this is exactly where I'm meant to be." His words warmed Camila's heart, chasing away some of the uncertainty that had been clouding her thoughts. She turned her face up to his, meeting his lips in a soft, tender kiss. As they parted, James's eyes sparkled with mischief. "You know, we still haven't decided on a wedding venue," he said, a grin spreading across his face. "What do you say we make it an adventure? We could travel around Europe scouting locations. It would be like a pre-honeymoon." Kamila laughed, her spirits lifting at the idea. "That sounds wonderful. But what about your new job? Won't they be expecting you to start soon?" James shrugged, his smile never faltering. "I've already talked to them about pushing back my start date a bit. They understand that we need some time to settle in and plan our future. Besides, I think exploring potential wedding venues counts as research for our new life here, don't you?" Kamila felt a surge of love and gratitude for this man, who always seemed to know exactly what she needed. "You're amazing, you know that," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I have my moments," James replied with a wink. "So what do you say? Shall we embark on a European wedding venue adventure?" Camila's answer was another kiss, this one filled with passion and promise. As they broke apart, breathless and laughing, she felt a renewed sense of excitement for their future together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Kamila and James packed up their belongings, said tearful goodbyes to friends and family, and boarded a plane bound for their new life in Europe. As they settled into their temporary apartment in Paris, their first stop on their wedding venue tour, Kamila couldn't help but feel a mix of exhilaration and nervousness. Their days were filled with exploring the city, visiting potential venues, and immersing themselves in the local culture. They wandered hand in hand through the winding streets of Montmartre, picnicked in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, and shared intimate dinners in cosy bistros. One evening, as they strolled along the Seine, James suddenly stopped and turned to Kamila. "I have a surprise for you," he said, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Intrigued, Kamila followed as he led her to a nearby dock, where a small, elegant boat was waiting. "What's this?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "I thought we could see Paris from a different perspective," James explained, helping her onto the boat, "and maybe get some inspiration for our wedding." As they cruised down the river, the city lights reflecting off the water, Kamila felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was what she had always dreamed of: adventure, romance, and a partner who understood her completely. James wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Happy?" he murmured. Kamila leaned back into his embrace, sighing contentedly. "More than I ever thought possible," she replied. As the boat glided under a bridge, James suddenly dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. Camila's heart raced as she realized what was happening. "Kamila," James began, his voice filled with emotion, "I know we're already engaged, but I wanted to do this properly, in the city where we first met. You've made me happier than I ever thought possible, and I want to spend the rest of my life making you just as happy. Will you marry me, here in Paris, where our story began?" Tears of joy streaming down her face, Kamila nodded, unable to speak. James slipped the ring, a stunning vintage piece he had found in a Parisian antique shop, onto her finger, then stood to pull her into a passionate embrace. As they kissed, fireworks suddenly erupted over the river, illuminating the night sky. Kamila broke away, laughing in delight. "Did you plan that too?" she asked, gesturing to the dazzling display. James grinned sheepishly. "I wish I could take credit, but I think it's just Paris working its magic for us." As they watched the fireworks reflect off the water, Kamila felt a sense of certainty settle over her. This was where they were meant to be, starting their new life together in the city that had brought them together. The next morning, energized by their romantic evening and renewed commitment, Kamila and James set out to find the perfect wedding venue. They visited Grand Chateaux in the French countryside, explored rustic vineyards, and toured elegant Parisian hotels. It was during a visit to a charming little chapel on the outskirts of the city that they both felt it, that indescribable sense of rightness. The chapel, with its weathered stone walls and stained glass windows, seemed to embody everything they wanted for their wedding: intimacy, history, and a touch of magic. "This is it," Kamila breathed, squeezing James's hand. "This is where I want to marry you." James nodded, his eyes shining with emotion. "It's perfect," he agreed. With the venue decided, they threw themselves into planning the details of their wedding. They chose a date in the early autumn, when the leaves would be turning golden and the air would be crisp with the promise of new beginnings. As the weeks passed, Kamila found herself falling more in love with their new life in Europe. She explored the local markets, practiced her French with friendly neighbours, and even started freelancing as a writer for travel magazines, sharing her experiences of their new home. James, too, was thriving in his new role at the European office. He came home each day full of stories about his colleagues and the exciting projects he was working on. Watching him light up as he talked about his work, Kamila felt a surge of pride and gratitude for the sacrifices he had made to be with her. Their wedding day dawned clear and bright, the autumn sun casting a golden glow over the chapel and its surrounding gardens. As Kamila stood before a mirror in a small antechamber, adjusting her veil, she felt a sense of calm certainty wash over her. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, expecting to see her maid of honour. Instead, it was her mother who entered, her eyes filling with tears as she took in the sight of her daughter in her wedding gown. "Oh, Kamila," she breathed, "you look absolutely beautiful." Kamila felt her own eyes well up as she embraced her mother. "I'm so glad you're here," she whispered. Her mother pulled back, cupping Camilla's face in her hands. "I wouldn't have missed this for the world," she said firmly. "I know it hasn't been easy, with you moving so far away, but seeing you now, so happy, so in love, I know you've made the right choice." Kamila felt a weight lift from her shoulders at her mother's words. She had worried about the strain their move had put on her family relationships, but in this moment, she knew that love truly could conquer all obstacles. As the wedding march began to play, Kamila took a deep breath and stepped out into the chapel. The sight that greeted her took her breath away. James standing at the altar, his eyes shining with love and awe as he watched her approach. In that moment, surrounded by their closest friends and family, with the man she loved waiting to begin their life together, Kamila knew that every challenge they had faced, every doubt they had overcome, had led them to this perfect moment. As she reached James and took his hand, she felt a sense of completion, as if the final piece of a puzzle had fallen into place. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, their love stronger for having been tested and proven true. The ceremony was a blur of emotion and joy, culminating in a kiss that seemed to seal their commitment not just to each other, but to the life they had chosen to build together. As they turned to face their cheering guests, now husband and wife, Kamila felt a surge of excitement for the adventures that lay ahead. The reception that followed was a joyous celebration of love and new beginnings. Friends and family from both sides mingled, sharing stories and laughter. Kamila and James moved through the crowd, basking in the warmth of their loved ones' congratulations and well wishes. As the evening wore on and the party showed no signs of slowing down, James pulled Kamila aside for a moment of quiet. Leading her out onto a small balcony overlooking the twinkling lights of Paris, he wrapped his arms around her waist and pressed a soft kiss to her temple. "Happy, Mrs. Thompson," he murmured, using her new surname for the first time. Kamila leaned back against him, sighing contentedly. "More than I ever thought possible," she replied, echoing her words from that night on the boat. "Thank you for giving me this life, this adventure." James turned her in his arms, meeting her gaze with intensity. "Our adventure is just beginning," he said softly. "I can't wait to see where it takes us next." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, with the city of love spread out before them, Kamila felt a sense of infinite possibility. Their journey had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, but it had led them here, to this perfect moment. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever joys and sorrows they might face, Kamila knew that with James by her side, she could conquer anything. Their love story, which had begun with a chance encounter in a Parisian cafe, had blossomed into something beautiful and enduring, a testament to the power of true love and the courage to follow one's heart. As the stars twinkled overhead and the sounds of celebration drifted up from the reception below, Kamila and James shared a kiss that held all the promise of their future together, a future filled with love, adventure, and the unshakable certainty that they had found their perfect match in each other.